In our final section of the night, we're going to hear from our fashion and games industry collaborators, Kate Harvey and Connie Reed.
Hey guys, thanks for everyone for inviting us on to this. It's really exciting to be here, and it's been really inspiring hearing all the other people talking about the fashion and games industries. I'm Kate Harvey. I'm a print and textile designer. I'm living in Dundee just now. And this is Connie.
Hey, I'm Connie, and I'm a games designer at Pog Size Hands, which is an indie studio in Dundee. And I'm also the co-founder and director of Conglomerate Games, which is a games company that focuses on serious games.
Yeah. So what was the game with the cystic fibrosis, Connie? Because that was so cool what you were telling me about earlier.
Yeah, I could go into it. I was going to go into it later, but yeah, I'll jump into it now. So while I was at uni in third year, during the professional project module, during my game design and production course, there was a brief where me and my team worked with Microsoft and Project Physio to create a game to help children with cystic fibrosis do their physiotherapy. So there, before I went into games, I used to study nursing, where I worked with children who had cystic fibrosis, and I kind of thought to myself, wow, it would be amazing if I can combine the knowledge that I had from when I did nursing and bring that into games. That'd be so cool. So then we eventually continued to work on that, and then that company has been up and running now fully for about a year.
I'll just talk a wee bit about like what I do and like my field. So I studied textile design at Duncan & Johnson, and I studied there from 2013 to 2017. I always totally was obsessed with textiles, and like fashion itself, I just loved it so much. And I think I originally wanted to be a fashion designer. And then I sort of learned a bit more about fashion and like all the pattern cutting and everything. And I think I got a bit scared of that. And suddenly I was like, oh my God, like the bits that I love about it are like all the prints and all the embellishments and all the decorative side of everything. And then textiles kind of encompasses all of that together. And then there's like also the sort of more like technological side. I personally haven't like ventured into that at all really within my own work. But yeah, at the moment I'm just working on making prints with heat transfer vinyl. I was trained in screen printing, but since like the pandemic and everything, I was doing a residency right before that, and I was doing bits of printing, and then as soon as I couldn't go into the print room anymore, this was at DJ CAD as well. As soon as I couldn't go into the print room anymore, I was just thinking, how can I do printing at home, but in a way that's like easy for me? I don't have that much money, so I didn't really know how to like, I couldn't really like buy all the equipment I would need to do proper screen printing at home. And I had bits of like vinyl left over, so I was cutting out shapes with them. And a lot of my work's kind of collagey anyway. So yeah, I just kind of managed to develop from like screen printing to like finding a way to like create prints at home, but like without all the equipment. Connie, see if you go down a bit, there's a few pictures I've uploaded on the board. So here is like, here. Yeah, that's it. So this is my work down here with the jumpers and the sweatshirts. I also kind of translate that into digital print. So there's a scarf as well in the corner, which is like the prints I would make, like kind of physically hand cut them out, and then I'd like put them into Illustrator and shake them around. And then also the towels, that was a collaboration I did with Local Heroes and the V&A, which was really exciting. And that was like one of the main kind of points in my career where I felt things started to like shift a little bit into being able to do what I want to do, like quite consistently, and like being kind of approached by different projects with different projects by different people, and it's quite exciting. Yeah, so it's been quite a busy year for me.
Sorry, do you want me to jump back up to the top?
Yeah, no, it's all good. And so how did you get in? So you got into gaming when you were young, didn't you?
Yeah, that'll be a good segue. Actually, we'll jump into here. So, thank you. So
That's
I
great.
my passion for gaming just started when I was really young. I can't even remember when. I think I was playing games before I could talk or before I was walking.
Mhm.
Like there's a picture here of me. This is me. I think I must have been 2. This would have been 1997, and then my sister's also here trying to play with the Nintendo 64. And it's just always been a fascination that I've had. Um, I play a lot with my mum and my sister. And I also really love design, and I always have. I remember when I was in primary school, I would make board games out of cardboard, um, and I just make them, and then I would force my mum and my sister to play them with me. I don't know how much my mum enjoyed that. I don't know how good they would have been, but she was always really supportive of me. Um, while I was in high school, design was always my favorite thing to do. Product design was my favorite subject at school. And when I was in 3rd year, I got a really good opportunity to do my work experience at Real Time World, which was a games company that used to be in Dundee. They're no longer open anymore. But yeah, it was a really good opportunity for me to have learned some stuff about the games industry quite early on. How about you?
That's so cool. Um, yeah, well, I mean, as it kind of says there as well, like I had really inspiring family and friends. So like my mum works in theatre and is always has, and it's just nice to have that kind of creativity like really close to you because it kind of encourages you a bit. Um, and yeah, so like when I was at uni, I did an internship with Isolated Heroes when I was in like 2014. And it was like I basically was just going along and like sewing all these sequin patches for them. But I think it was just being in that kind of creative environment, seeing that is possible to like start your own thing and to do it from like the ground up. Was really inspiring. And then after I graduated, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to continue, to be honest. I was a bit kind of burnt out from like the degree and everything. So um I moved to Glasgow for a bit, and then I moved to Australia for a bit, and I was doing all these kind of crappy jobs, and I was just like, oh, this isn't really what I want to do. And then I'd met Ellie Villali. Oh no, I'm saying her name wrong. She's going to kill me if she ever sees this. But she does Squint clothing. And I met her. She lived in Melbourne as well, and I met her. And I remember one time I didn't have a job for a while, and she needed some help with the market, so I was going around and helping her quite a lot. And that was another example where I was like, oh, this is this like really cool person that's like started their own like label and is doing so well, and it's just very inspiring to be around that. And I think all these little things kind of niggled away, and eventually I was like, no, I need to do this.
Yeah.
I was going to try and do it. And yeah, I think we were talking about this earlier, where it was like you have a kind of need to do something creative, you just kind of have to follow it, because I think if you try and ignore it, it just makes you a bit unhappy.
Yeah.
And I've certainly felt a lot better in the past couple of years just from like doing what I like doing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like with me, and similar to that, I initially, when I left high school, I went into child nursing, and then 2 years along, I was sitting there thinking that I should be doing something that I will definitely absolutely love doing. Because as much as I do care about children wanting to look after them, if it's not the right thing for me to do, then I'm not going to enjoy it, especially if I graduate. So after I did nursing, I then went to college at the Dundee and Angus College to do a computer game development, and then I moved on to Abertay in 2016, where I did game design and production. I learned a lot over my time in Abertay. I was given a lot of opportunities, and I don't think I would have made it to where I was if I wasn't given them while I was there, such as with the conglomerate stuff. Near the end of uni, I had an internship at Outplay, which is a games company in Dundee, and then after that, I did another internship at Bog Size Hands. And then that's where I had the internship, and then before I graduated, I moved on to full-time.
Yeah, that's so cool that you got the opportunity to like stay with them and they would support you as well.
Yeah, it was really good. Do
Mhm.
you want me to just talk about what I've been up to since graduating, or do you want to talk about where you studied?
Well, I feel like I've already covered that a bit because I was at Duncan and Johnson,
Yeah.
and I pretty much did textiles the whole time. So, um, what about where?
Yeah, I could just I'll
Yeah,
move
go
that here.
for it.
So
Yeah.
since I've graduated, well, I've been at Pocket Size Hands since the start. Well, since before I graduated. I thinking about it would have been March or April. I want to say that I went full time. And then I was still completing my honours while I was working there. Since then, I've worked on numerous different projects. I can't talk about them all because of NDA, but I've been doing like a variety of completely different things. So I'll talk about three here. No Danger was one of the things that I've done, which is a choose your own adventure game, which is aimed at schools and like youth groups to try and teach young people about the dangers of knife carrying specifically. So on that project, I was helping to do the design on how the game should flow and all the mini games and stuff that were in there. So that's been out and being used in schools and youth groups at the moment. A more traditional game that I've worked on was Pocket Morty'S. Pocket Size Hands started on that project last year, where we've been doing live ops on it, which is just because it's a live game, it's a mobile game, so it gets updates regularly. So we've been working on those. So I've been designing new features, quality of life features, new characters, and I've also done quality assurance on that as well. And then another thing, which is completely different from all games, is I've been helping on the UI design and prototyping for Smart View, which is an augmented reality technology, which is planned to be helping farmers be able to identify their cows using a HoloLens. So that's been interesting working on that. I never thought I'd be doing anything to do with farming when I went into games. So it's been very interesting, but I need to do a lot of different things because I'm at an indie studio. The projects that I work on are all completely different, but I learn so much each time and I can apply so much stuff to each project going forward.
That's so cool, and it's really good to have the opportunity to like wear different hats within the place that you're working, because it means that you get, like, I suppose if you're working for a bigger company, then you're going to have like one job. If you're in a smaller company or you're working like with by yourself or like with one or two people, like you get the opportunity to like really branch out and maybe actually something you do you'll like even more than what you're doing at the moment, or like you'll discover a new thing, which is really cool.
Yeah, because I take it you need to do well wear a lot of hats because it's just you by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like the thing I'm good at is the thing I do the least of. Everything else is just like worrying that I'm not doing other things properly, or it's fine though. I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
that's why I bother. But yeah. So the bit underneath that about the language of collaboration. So we were talking about like different ways that we work, and and so there's this kind of prioritization graph, Connie, that you mentioned to me, which I thought was so useful.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I was saying about how I'm so bad at managing my time and I just kind of lose track of things like so much. I have to write everything down, but then I like forget where I've written it, all that stuff. But yeah, this kind of this graph, like the way it splits everything up, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm also really bad at prioritization and looking, like taking a step back from projects and trying to think about everything. So I'm kind of the same with you there, but it's a super handy tool for just prioritizing and seeing which ones will be the best things to spend most of my time on, or to at least focus on at that point.
Yeah, and like your process where it's your iterative design and everything, Can you explain that? Because I was trying to look at it and I was like, oh.
Yeah, so I'm just going to make sure that I don't accidentally move things.
Okay, cool.
So like this is just an overall kind of way that I kind of think about design. So first of all, I'll have a problem. The problem could be I want to design a character which, I don't know, does this. So the first stage will be like the research stage while I think about it, and I'll try and think of the things that I don't know. And then the next stage is after that, I'll then research, and then I'll probably get to the point of the thing that I'm wanting to do. So like initially when I've got ideas, I'll get maybe like a whole load of different ways that I could do something, but then I'll refine it down. So then I get like, I'll get a really specific plan of what I then need to do, which is here. And then the main bit is the develop and deliver bit, where I'll be trying things out, trying to work it out and see if it works. But then if I realize that it doesn't work and I then have to do more research, I then know that I can go back and then I can kind of keep going in a loop. I either can go in a loop between the areas by themselves, or just as a whole thing. If I'm here, I can then realize, oh, I need to go back again.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. And it's like, that's actually a really clever way of putting it out there. I'm sure actually that's how I do it as well.
Yeah.
I was just looking at that and for some reason it didn't make sense. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, that's so cool to like have it so clearly written down like that. So my version of this was this one. So ideally, so this is when I'm like making prints kind of at their core and starting a new thing. So I always start off with the sketchbook, and at uni I really was not into doing the sketchbook bit because I wanted to just do the big final thing and make something look really cool. But like, you know, obviously you have to do the work before you can get there. You have to get from A to B. And actually, like, I remember, so if you go down slightly to the other A to B bit, I remember my tutor in fourth year saying like, so you're at A and you want to go to B and you think it's gonna be really easy because you've got like a vague idea on how to get there. And she was like, what actually happens though with a lot of creative people is you try to go to A to B, but then you end up going like in like a million circles and back to front and everything. And you spend half the time going, oh, this is great. Oh no, this is so bad. This is great. This is great. Oh, that was awful. And it just kind of, you're up and down constantly. And she was like, if you practice, you can actually get from A to B smoothly. It's just like, how? Because actually, like when I create prints, like the idea is you do a sketchbook, you gather photographs, objects, drawings. I try and work out like what is it about it that I find interesting. So like, for example, if I took these photographs when I was in Australia, around this warehouse I was working in, and it was also industrial, that area, but there was some like stunning flowers just like in amongst all these like horrible brick buildings. They weren't even nice brick buildings. It was all bits. It wasn't great. It's just the sort of juxtaposition. That's what I quite like in things. It's like kind of flowy shapes with like built up areas. That's like the kind of core of what inspires me, even though it might not really come across in my work. That's the thing I always look for and find exciting. And then it would go on to like developing ideas, and it's like, so from these shapes which I found really interesting, or from this composition I found interesting from this photograph, I'm like, how can I like make that into, am I gonna like draw it, am I gonna like do collage, am I gonna use the actual photograph itself, like how can I like develop that? And then I would like maybe try that in a few different ways, and just go through that process, until I have something which I want to make into sort of final motif. And like maybe it's repeated, maybe it's like a kind of one-off print. But yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I just end up going back around in circles.
Yeah, that's what I do. It was just interesting that we spoke about this, and even though what we do is completely different, it's just the way we do it is very similar.
Yeah. yeah, maybe we should move on to like the sort of issues that we've discovered, because there's a lot of like sexism issues we've found in like both in like both industries.
Yeah. So for games, I'll start with like many female characters are quite heavily sexualized, and this is an issue for me because as I was saying earlier, like when I went after school, I went into child nursing. That was because even though I did my work experience at a game studio, when I turned like that age, like 17, whatever it was that I was picking my subjects, I then thought, oh, I can't go into games because I'm a girl, and girls either don't play games or they just aren't in games. And it's just because like if you're not able to see yourself in these games, I've written a bit here. Oh no. So it would, with girls not seeing people like themselves in games or playing with other people like themselves, it would further just cement the idea in their head that games aren't for girls and they're not made by girls. So it just it perpetuates this balance of gender in the games industry. With like 28% of females in the 28% of people in the games industry are people who identify as female, even though women make up 50% of people who actually play games. So like, would a more diverse team be able to help with this? This was something that I found, which I found quite interesting, of if you ask a group of 8th grade girls, which is about 12 to 13, of what they think someone who makes games looks like, they look like this. But then if you ask if you ask girls who are a few years older, they'll draw them as men, which is quite sad. And then looking at here, if you're asked about, well, a group of girls were asked about their interest in making games and how it just goes away, and it's the same with all these. So that kind of links on to a discussion that we were having about, sorry, my internet's kind of going a bit funky. Yeah, if you want to lead on to your bit, sorry.
Oh yeah, sure. So I was working at Dundee Design Festival this year, and me and my friend set up a workshop in which people could customize clothing using heat transfer vinyl, kind of similar to the way that I was talking about earlier. And there was this group of boys that came in, they were all like 10 years old, and they were so cute, and they would come in like every day and like bring like all their friends with them, and they were like, oh my god, like, oh, this is so cool, I really like, can you cut me a skull, can you write my name, and like really wanted to like do this clothing workshop. And but like effectively I was just really surprised, because I just thought like, that's really sweet that these wee boys want to do that. But I feel like even in the next like 2 years, like when they go to high school, that kind of thing would be like, oh, you're only going to do that, that's a bit girly, or you're going to go to a print design workshop. Because textiles has that thing about being like women's work, especially kind of decorative textiles, because I suppose like tailors and stuff are all historically male, just like that's just how it is. But then like, and then I don't know, in like the 1800s, 1700s, 1800s, when you just imagine all these women, you know, sitting in grand houses and doing their needlework, and like and I think that's just really stuck, that narrative that decorative textiles are like a female thing. And like even in like my class at uni, there was like one guy in the class of 30 or like just over 30, and that just seems to be a sort of recurring theme.
Yeah.
People are put off by, you know, that's a girly thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing with like Harry Styles like wearing kind of like feather boas and that, I put a few pictures, but like, isn't it just strange that like that's like a really big deal, but then in the 70s they were all doing that, and like, how's it a big deal? Do you know what I mean? It's very strange.
Yeah, it's interesting that like we have mirrors of the issues in the industry, with like in the games there's not enough women, and then in games it's mostly straight white males who are in games, and then it's just in fashion it's mostly females, especially like in when you're going to study.
Yeah, when you're studying.
Yeah.
Then at the top, it's like a lot of men as well. It just seems to be like that. There's this kind of weird stigma when kids are like kind of teenagers, where they don't want to like pursue that because that's like a girly thing. And it's the same with games where it's like, I don't want to pursue that. Only boys do that.
Yeah.
And so like I think in terms of like what we're thinking of like for next steps, we we can't like solve this issue just being Connie as much as we would like to, but we were thinking about like making, because the kind of the main theme that came of this was like people want to see themselves within games, and like I mean that's what other people who've been talking tonight have been saying. It's like you want to see yourself reflected back into the games you're playing, and personalization of like avatars and stuff is such a big component to that. And that's like kind of along the same lines as personalizing clothing, because it's like, this is who I am, this is like what I want to show to the world. And is there possibly a way that we can like combine that and make it into like a game not just for gamers, maybe the game's for designers, maybe the game is like to like for like even like young kids, maybe like school kids, to like create things but like through a game. And yeah, you were saying you found that design tool about getting shirts printed. Yeah,
like there's a game that I play called Jackbox, where one of the mini games is that it's a multiplayer game where people draw things on their phones, and then you can then send off to their website to get whatever you drew printed onto a t-shirt. So I think that kind of thing could be interesting for just implementing it into a game, and then you can have it in a game as well as in real life. I think it's important for like to make it a thing that's not explicitly just for gamers or explicitly just for people who are into fashion. Because then that opens it up, and then that will allow more people to be like to know about the industries, and that they can see, oh, maybe I can do this, maybe I like doing this, that kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally, it does. Just like one point I want to add, I saw this article earlier, and it was about how the MA course at Central St. Martin's changed its name from like future textiles to future materials, and like how that kind of even changing it from textiles, which is sort of associated with feminine things, to materials is like kind of more masculine or more neutral. And it's just quite funny how like even the way that you speak about things can like make quite a big difference.
Yeah. Wow,
like,
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hello.
Hello.
Hate to interrupt, but that is all the time we have for
didn't realize the time.
This collaboration.
Sorry.
It was really no, it was great. Like it was really interesting chat. I think we are now going to hand over to Safia for a quick final Q&A.
Well, hey, so I don't think we have time, unfortunately, for any question, but yeah, the conversation was amazing, and you covered so many different subjects. I'm sure that the guests will have had lots of cool information.
I hope so. Thank you for this. It was really good. The conversations that Kate and I had were really good.
Yeah, it's been a total pleasure, Connie. It's been great. And thank you to all the Arcadia people as well.
Thank you so much. That was, so good, especially yourselves, Kate and Connie. That was a great way to end our Interlace program. And watch this space, because we will be coming back to Kate and Connie as the collaboration kind of unfolds in the weeks ahead. Thank you so much for your time, Kate and Connie. We'll say goodbye to you now, as we then just prepare our final thank yous. It is the end of Interlace, I'm afraid. We would like to thank all our amazing guests for a wonderful evening. You've all been great. We hope this is the start of more cross-sector conversations. We'll certainly do our bit to kind of facilitate more of these conversations at Biome Collective. I would also like to thank the team. That includes Tom, supporting with the visual and audio support. Susie, co-creation and production, especially early on. Yourself, Gino and Safia doing an amazing job this evening, and Darshana too. And a big shout out to the team at Biome Collective and Scotland Redesign, and also our funders, Event Scotland. Lastly, after saying goodbye, I'm happy to say that we will be back soon at Arcadia Night 2021. It should be December the 9th. So watch the space, and thank you.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you later.